I recently had the pleasure of sitting down with my friend and partner, Joe DiRaffaele, in his studio to interview him about his success as a realtor. Those who know Joe know that he has been immensely successful in not just real estate, but in just about everything he's done. I'm grateful to be in business with him, to sit on the Synergy Community Board of Directors with him, and to be his friend. I'm breaking our lengthy conversation down into little bite-sized segments that I'll be sharing over the next few weeks. I started our conversation out by asking Joe what he felt it takes to be successful in this business. So let's pick it up there. You are obviously a realtor who, you've been in the business for decades. You are super successful. And we look at our business in general, and there's this huge washout rate. And so I'm curious to know from your perspective, for those who do survive the washout rate, and we all know the stats, like 80% gone in the first year, 90% gone in the second year, something like that, right? From your perspective, what is it that makes those agents who survive different than those who wash out?
And that is a great question. So 29 years I've been at this. I just passed it in July. So what's interesting to me is I look back over this, and I think back to early in my career when I was one of those new people, and they said, take a look to your left, take a look to your right,
Yeah.
and, you know,
As a way to motivate you?
they're like, two of you won't be here, right? Like in that little scenario within months. And so I'm going to give an answer from a couple different perspectives, at least on how I look at it, and I want to turn the question around on you as well. The first thing is, I think, is that a lot of people come in with a lot of misconceptions.
Yeah.
And so I'll say they're not prepared properly before they even come into the industry. You know, the thinking of is I get my license and I take people out and I show them homes and this fun, glorious thing. And I mean, gosh, that is a fun thing to be doing. But they don't get prepared, or they're not exposed to the concept of what you actually have to do to get a client. So I think on the early period, that first year, I think a lot of the washouts are people that they're unqualified. And they might not have gone into the industry had they known the reality of everything they have to do.
Yeah.
The second part of why I think people wash out is the mental, emotional battle. Battling with yourself day in and day out. Number one, from a standpoint of what you need to do to be successful or just to even get clients. And then the emotional pressure, that's going to tie into something that I know you'll identify very well. The emotional pressure from a financial end.
Yeah.
Is they may not have come in prepared financially with a game plan to make it in the business. And that's for people coming in. But I'm also going to say it's the same for people who have made it in for a couple of years. The market always goes in segments of swings of, it's super easy with buyers, it's super hard with buyers. It's super easy if you have sellers, it's super hard if you have sellers, right? So that's always changing. But the one thing that most agents don't do well enough is prepare themselves financially to weather those storms that swing either way. Because to me, it's never usually just a gentle little swing from one side to the other. It's completely a seller's market to now it's a buyer's market.
Yeah.
Right? And agents tend to be good at a certain aspect of the business. And by not being disciplined or prepared financially, number one, with reserve accounts, but number two, disciplined in spending and not the old adage, the real estate agent, anytime the market changes, all these luxury cars are now for sale in the resale market because agents and lenders and people in the industry just jump in. So I'm turning the question right around to you.
Well, my
What do you
answer
see?
is very similar. I
Yeah.
think that people underestimate what it's going to take.
Mm-hmm.
They just miss on that. They think, well, they do the math, right? You're the guy who says any realtor can tell you 3% of any number.
It's
right?
true.
And so they do the math and they say, well, if I was doing one a month, it'd be more than I'm making now. If I did 4 a month, whoa, look at what that would look like. And so they do that math and they just think, well, that math is true, but that math comes later for them, and they just underestimate how long it'll take to get there.
I think that's a key point that you just touched on is the runway, the time,
Yeah.
right? I know when I first got in the industry, and of course I'm speaking about beginners, we'll talk about every level of agents, but I remember in the beginning, they're like, you got to figure out how to get a sale as
Yeah.
quickly as you can. And, whatever you got to do to bump through and talk to everybody, and then you get one. And then when you have that one, you can't celebrate. You
Gotta
have
keep-
to go
keep
do
going,
another
put the-
one.
Put the pedal
Right?
to the metal.
The
yeah.
challenge is your learning at every stage is amplified. Now, let's go to agents that have been in the business, 5 years or less. That agent is challenged with, they got conditioned in an easier market. So for example, I'm going to break this very simple. Let's say I was training for a long distance race and I was running with a bunch of 10-year-olds
Yeah.
and I was doing great. Then it comes around to where I have to run with you, right?
Somebody who's running every day.
You are always
Longer
running.
legs.
You've been a triathlete. I mean, I'm not conditioned for that run. It might be the exact same distance, right? So from a real estate perspective, have they been forged under fire
Yeah.
when the market gets tough? And so a lot of agents forget the basics.